Hello and welcome back to NE1's Mental Health Podcast with me, Ray Elliott, and my good pal, Sam Warner. How are you doing, Sam?
I'm good, thank you very much. It's a glorious, glorious day, isn't it? So we are blessed to be alive.
Yeah, I think we've picked the hottest day of the year to do this
to
podcast.
Be sat in a small room, yeah. A gorgeous room, though.
Quite an airy room, though. We're quite fortunate.
I'll make a point, actually. We've got the window open slightly, so if we do get the odd hum of traffic, it's because we're staying alive in this room.
We are absolutely delighted to be joined by Tatiana Newton, or IYOGABODY, as you're known on Instagram, I believe, and what I know you by from following you for a little while. Tatiana, thanks so much for coming. Thanks for being on.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
We're thrilled to have you on here. Do you want to give us a little bit of a flavour of who you are, what it is you do?
I simply teach yoga to local people, Tynemouth, Newcastle, educate people about the posture, alignment, well-being and mental health. Not all at once, not the same time, but that's my passion, which I'm hopefully coming through when I'm teaching, particularly matter of how important to stretch to do yoga. Pretty much as important as brush your teeth. That's all I do.
Wow. And I mean, they're all interconnected, aren't they, that we're learning more about this. And I know I just said this to you, but why I'm particularly excited about doing this podcast is I want to know, treat me as an absolute beginner here, and I'll probably ask some really silly questions, but it's something that really intrigues me as a 16-stone Geordie lad who's not the most flexible, and probably sitting here, you're looking at me and looking at my posture thinking,
yes. I assessed you already, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, she's done the body scan already. But,
yes.
I've always thought, yoga, it's never been something for people like me. However, I'm starting to see more and more people, UFC fighters, boxers, it's a big thing in
Tennis
football.
players, footballers.
Yeah, it's everybody, isn't it? And I'm just thinking, maybe I could give it a go. But I think the thought of me going into a yoga studio, being the least flexible person in the Northeast.
Right, can I stop you there?
Here we go.
If one more person tell me I'm not flexible to do yoga, I'm literally going to cry. Cry.
Yeah.
It's like saying I'm too dirty to take shower. This is why you go to yoga.
Right.
Before it's too late, before you, at the age of 40-something, have a bad knee. Because I tell you what, men particularly, fittest men start to crumble after the age of 40. Because they're so fit. They're fit / strong. You can only get so strong without flexibility, and then your body refuses to carry you. So why, my job, and I'm getting a bit passionate.
I love the passion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
My job to simply educate, what do you expect when you come to a yoga studio? What are you expecting? Most of the people think, oh God, I can't be bothered to sit down and breathe. It's important to breathe and know how to breathe, but the type of yoga I teach, alignment, and how your body moves in very biomechanical way. So it's quite tough.
Yeah.
So one thing you should worry about, will I survive?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's hitting home with us as men of a certain age, where we're starting to feel the aches and pains now, and we've probably just took things for granted and just went to the gym and done certain sports and not
certain
stretched.
areas, certain joints, certain group muscle
Reoccurring
group,
movement.
which then another part of your body doesn't contribute. It doesn't work in synergy with muscles you build up, like let's say thighs. Then your hamstrings suffering, and so on. I used to do bodybuilding. I used to dance. I used to be for quite some time gymnast. So I see body from different perspective of training. And all I do now is yoga, and it's not, one day you don't feel it, one day you go for it, but alignment is something we don't know about anything about. And hence, again, another thing is I have a funny shoulder or funny knee. There's nothing funny about your body. It's a serious matter. It's learning how to maintain your body, so then it reflects in your mind. So You can't be a happy person in a locked body full of pain.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You know
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
That if you have a backache and you have a family and, you know, you want to have a good life, go out, you have kids, you're not there 100% for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my job. That's my passion.
I love that. I love that.
Educate you. Listen, you need that. And this is why. Not drag you to class.
Yeah.
You know,
To understand, to know, to realize. You know, I heard something recently on a podcast I was listening to. I think it was Rhonda Patrick, actually, with I forget who the guy's name was, pardon me, I'll try and remember for the notes, but they were talking about ultimately there's a cliff edge as we get older. Our body, we lose muscle mass and ligament strength and bone density over the course of decades. And as you mentioned, a man in his 40s, I think it's somewhere around about, you lose 10% of muscle mass, bone density and ligament strength over a decade.
it's 20.
Right, there you go. And what they were talking about is that inevitable cliff that we hit as we reach our old age, and we now muster the energy we can carry is just to get out of a chair, just to put a shoe on. By doing, I think what you're getting at, Tatiana, by creating harmony, mobility and strength and balance in your body, is you're holding that cliff edge off for a lot longer and with a lot softer fall.
Decline, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're all going to die.
Yes.
I'm sorry to break it to you.
Yeah.
But I would rather die probably teaching, you know, at the age of 127. Still looking good.
Yeah.
You know.
Rather die doing a
I'd go that
handstand.
way, yeah.
Yeah, no,
And handstand or something, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Drop dead. Bless his soul.
Getting back to what you were saying about fears about going into a yoga class, I've seen some of the stuff that you do and you teach people on your page, and I'm looking at it thinking, that doesn't even seem physically possible to me. And what I think my concern is, and maybe people that are listening, or you know, is that I don't want to go into that class and just not be able to do anything. But would that not be the case? Could you go at any sort of stage, or you know, from total beginner, or do you have different classes that cater for everyone?
The beauty of, I do this for 20 years and I'm teaching for 12. And I developed my own technique. So you can join any of my classes. Remember that everybody you see on Instagram, because I very much like to post videos and pictures of my students, obviously from their permission. They all started with me from zero.
Yeah.
There's no one there. Oh, I've done yoga for a while. In fact, people who say I've done yoga for a while, okay. Let's see. So the way I teach, every single asana or pose have layers. The very first one, can you stand straight? Can you lift your knee towards your chest? Is your hip flexors great? Can you hold that knee towards your chest? It means you have a strong hip flexors. Can you take that knee to the side to tree pose? What is your hip mobility? And next thing you know, you're in tree pose with everybody else in the class. So can you hold and balance on one leg? Obviously, I explain how and what. If you can't, your mind is scattered. It means you're mentally not with it at the moment, because it takes great concentration to hold asana. And this is something I teach, balancing poses I teach for. Sometimes I walk into class and I see the vibe is not there. Whatever I prepare to teach is not going to work. Or I know a couple of people had a tough day. The moment I start teaching balance, they all snap out of it. Because you have to focus just not to fall.
Wow.
You take your mind off whatever happened just before you walk into class.
That's a really interesting point. So you gauge the room, you gauge the vibe, and then you cater your class.
I don't.
to that.
I just threw through the window. I
So
decided, if I planned back bends, walked in, and I just know my student, I wouldn't even say that. Great, we're doing something else.
Wow.
It takes years of knowledge. I'm anatomy obsessed.
Well, and also your intuition, your emotional intelligence of being able to feel the energy of a room and individuals that become collective.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It also takes training and probably my personality as well. I'm all about vibe of energy. I can't explain sometimes. And if I walked in here 20 minutes ago, I didn't like you guys, I'd go home.
Oh, well,
mean,
you're
it's
still
not-
here, so that's saying something, eh?
Yeah, we'll take
We've
that.
passed the first.
But do you agree? It's all about good vibes, energy,
Yeah,
and meeting
yeah.
lovely people and share ideas, and just have a like, gosh, I met amazing. I had a good day. That's what life about.
It is, yeah. I concur.
I'm a bit worried. You know, you talked about that first stage of coming in about your hip flexors. I'd probably I'd fail that first stage, and it would be something I really have to work on because I think that's my big weakness, that area.
But that brings you to your own body awareness. You learn about yourself. You connect it to your body and your mind, and you actually ask yourself a question: how do you feel today? Right, it's not a big deal. Weak hip flexors. You can focus on that and get better.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of yoga. And I'm teaching classical yoga. I'm classically educated. I trained for 5 years. And I train separately pranayama as well. So then you focus on, all right, so I'm getting older, but I'm actually getting better in my body. And that fascinates me.
Well, that's the goal for me. You know, you're saying about
Cliff, yeah?
yeah, that cliff, and I'm trying to sort of train where I do, and I am saying it. I am getting stronger in some respects, doing certain types of training, and it's about finding what works for you as
Yes.
well, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%.
And I suppose everything I'm asking you here is probably a bit of a loaded question because I do have every intention of getting into yoga. So this is why I was really looking forward
I would
to this.
love to. I would love to. I'll do private with you too.
I'd
Honestly,
love that,
I would love to. Oh, I'm going to have a great laugh.
yeah. Please don't video it.
Oh, mate.
I can't promise that. I might, but I will take pictures before and after.
It's a really interesting point you make, though, about the psychology of it for the individual. So I feel like I'm getting to a point, and anybody who knows me and spends any time with me and might be listening to this knows that I've been complaining a lot about my knee, my left hip, my right knee. And you mentioned earlier about being a fit 40-year-old who starts to crumble after that age as the body, you know, and I've done various different sports, but ultimately a handful of sports over and over again to a reasonably high level where, you know, I'm really focused, really committed and hitting my body in the red line. I had a spell of doing yoga in about just before the lockdown, I think, a hot yoga pod. You know, the hot pods came. I went to a hot pod yoga pod, right? Now, the reason, as I mentioned this, is because I felt like I was just coming up to 40 years old, and I knew instinctively, whatever I'm doing now, whether I'm strong, where I can move weight, move kettlebells, or I'm fast in a 5K, or whatever it is, in the end, this is a lifespan we're talking about. And I won't be running a fast 5K when I'm 50. And another analogy used about brushing your teeth. I really like that because it is something for me. Mobility and balance in your body is something that you maintain across your life. And my mentality, and I think it was an age thing for me, we're all different, but I was like, yeah, I've got to start incorporating something that's going to benefit me in a holistic way, like in a
organic,
in a functional way that's releasing stress and tension out of my body and keeping that mobility, because I can feel I'm getting stiffer, I can feel I'm getting, you know, sort of tighter, and it was landing there in my mind. And I think, Ray, you're a little bit younger than me. Your body starts to talk to you, and if you listen to it, it will guide you in the right direction, won't it?
Yeah, it's
That's
usually when
part
you
of-
start creaking, when you're moving.
Well, someone said to me once, you never look under the bonnet until the engine fails.
Yeah,
and that made me think, God, yeah. And if you do look under now and again and make sure you've got water and got oil, it might not fail.
But my question is, can you squat to look at that? Like, can you actually pick up something from the floor? Never mind all this running and jumping.
Exactly.
Can
yeah,
you
get
simply
up,
just
yeah.
squat? Like all the kids do. You've got kids.
Yeah, they're the perfect example.
Just look
aren't
at
they?
them,
Their
how
form
they
is amazing.
move.
I lived in
Why?
Thailand for a while, and everybody squats to eat. Everybody's squatting all the time in the Asian squat.
Yeah.
It's your hip mobility, knee mobility, flexibility of your hamstrings.
I'm going to give it a go
ankles.
right now.
Okay.
I'm not, because I'll probably fall over.
Right, and lift your chest a bit. Yeah, that's great. So your Achilles is in good condition, your calves, that's brilliant. And your ankles quite flexible. That's great. Ray, your turn?
Really?
I know.
Thank you very
I know.
much. Go
You
on, Ray.
invited me, so... Okay, so yeah, come out.
Yeah, I think that sigh just means we've got a lot of work to do here.
It might be.
I'm
It
going to
might be
blame
your
it on the
jeans,
shorts.
you know.
Maybe
It might be shorts. Yeah.
Yeah, my shorts are too
Tight
tight.
shorts.
They're a
You
little
look
bit
fantastic in them.
Yeah, I think I look cool, but
Yeah. You look. Yeah.
I didn't expect this today, but probably should have.
It's warm, isn't it? You've got a dab on from that.
Yeah. But when I said I wasn't really flexible, and it's weird because I do some sports that require a bit of flexibility, you know, the kettlebells or the surfing. But
Yeah.
I always feel like I'm really rigid, you know.
Oh, you do surf and you have a good core. You're more in tune with yourself than I thought. You're aware of your body, of movement. Yeah. You've got to have a element of fear as well. So you're great with that, you know, if you're surfing.
Yeah.
So
A point you mentioned before about posture and alignment, and something I might have mentioned this on a previous pod, but some time ago I got into breath work and meditation, and one of the things you do initially, or I do with the meditation certainly, is that body scan, and I always find that I'm, you know, certainly the right hand side, I'm tensed up. You know, when you do that and you're like, and then you go through it, and even when I think I'm not, you know, I don't think I'm that stressed out or whatever, or I'm that tense. When I do that scan, I always am, or my jaw's clenched. So I think I've been living with a lot of just, you know,
tension
a lot
around
of
your
tension.
shoulders.
Yeah, and I really get it in the shoulders bad.
Well, that's why you store stress around your neck and your shoulders, and the trauma stored in your hips.
Wow,
That's interesting.
that is interesting.
My hip, my left hip and my right. I mean, I could feel my hip and my knee then in that squat position, and I don't get in that purposely at the moment a lot. Trying to rehab my knee, which seems to be kind of a mystery, what is going on with my knee.
It wouldn't be to me. We definitely need to set the session.
Right, okay, well, I'll take you up on that then, Tatiana, because in all honesty, and for listeners as well, being as though this is a disclosure podcast on how we feel, like my knees now, I've been in and out of this knee for a couple of years, and then this latest bit, I've managed to rehab it twice and get it back by stretching and mobility and doing sort of reverse sled work and stuff like that, and quite a lot of work on my hips actually. But this last spell, I think I was in the gym with you, Ray. We did a bit of a high rocks WOD on the treadmill, remember? And we were doing thrusters.
Yeah.
And then I went back the next day, and because I was so happy to be running again, typical bloke, I was like, right, I can run at 350
I'm saying nothing.
kilometres on this session because I'm back, you know. And then I got off, and my knee was, and that's been 5 months now, where I cannot seem to shift this pain from my inside of my knee, and it's starting to get me down a bit. If I'm honest, it's starting to really, I can hear myself moaning. I'm becoming like a moaning dad.
Well, don't worry, I'm here now. So.
Oh, that is awesome news, and yeah, I'll be really interested to see what you think.
Yes, that's. I could definitely help you with that and assess you. And it's all start. Would you believe? Simply with alignment of your body.
Mm-hmm.
The habit we adopted as we got older and wiser. Then we just, we know best.
Yeah.
And also sometimes you're right, Ray. You think you're doing it, but you're not.
Yeah.
You think you're relaxed, but you're not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes professional like me to recognize that, not pick on people, obviously, just guide them. Sometimes even my students don't know what I've just noticed,
Yeah.
simply in relaxation after the class.
So it's an interesting, because, we talk about mind, body and soul and the connection, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it. But, ultimately people might be looking at yoga and thinking, oh, it's just stretching. But it's so much more than that.
Just.
We've got to yeah. But that might be people's perception. I've got a friend who's practicing. He's going through the training to be a yoga instructor at the moment, and he's told us a bit about it, and about all the benefits for him. We talk about meditation. It almost is like that for them. That period that they do, it could be 20 or 30 minutes every morning. but the stress levels that they feel afterwards, it just sets them up for the day, you know. And that, like you say, starting off that your day in that way, you're more flexible, you're more mobile, you've done something for your mind. But what is the connection with your well-being? I know being fitter and whatnot, but what is it, that integral sort of overall well-being that people talk about when they're doing yoga, that they feel?
Well, it's awareness of yourself, knowing exactly who you are, which leads to confidence.
Right.
And feeling good in certain areas of your body, or overall give you that element of joy and happiness, feeling you invincible regardless age.
Yeah.
This is physical part, asanas. If we talk about pranayama, which I'm trained, now we call it breath work, but I've trained old-fashioned pranayama with quite actually well-known, world-renowned teachers. That element at the art of breathing, where you control, if you need to, your breathing to achieve certain goals. And even itself, the statement, it's quite powerful. So you just go day by day and breathe, and then suddenly you learn you can actually control your anxiety with breath.
Yeah.
How cool is that? Panic attacks. It only takes one little technique to control panic attack. Then on the spot.
Yeah.
It's called double breathing, double inhalation. You inhale again. You fill your lungs so much, completely full, that only one choice you have after that, to exhale. And exhalation becomes so long, it resembles sigh of relief.
Wow.
And you do that a couple of times, and you suddenly feel that your mind switched from whatever you just been stressed about, panicking, to actual breathing.
That's interesting. I teach my children something similar. So if they fall over, if they hurt themselves, in those shock moments, we always get back to breathing. And I don't know if I've had a specific style that I've put to them. I mean, just to focus on the breathing, just breathe. Deep breath, just slow down, just think about the breathing, and your knee's not going to hurt as much, it's going to help that pain, and then, but okay daddy, and then they just slowly bring it back. But we always say that, always try and focus on the breathing.
You and your wife intuitively know how to deliver that in the moment of shock, how to help kids not to fall apart and scream and cry and corpuses. And you're right, it's about slow down and exhale, not inhale when you hyperventilate. It's all about slow your heart rate. It's all about exhaling and letting go. So that connection, body and mind, and spirit, as the energy, as we talked about, spirit. Yeah. My transcription of spirit to modern kind of, in the modern way, is the energy and vibes. That's so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the truth is, with whatever you do, particularly we talk about yoga, I wish I had a yoga pill when everybody asking me, can't just have a pill. Yeah, you can. When I come up with it, you can.
But that's a really interesting point, Tatiana, because I would argue, right, that the modern world, and we spoke a little bit prior to the podcast, the Western world in particular, about shortcuts, comfort. If there was an advert on the middle of Coronation Street that said, here's a yoga pill, and that you'll get all the benefits of yoga, right, everybody would get that pill. They'd break their neck to get that pill.
I'll be oversubscribed, like full time.
But coming back to what Ray just said about the benefits and what is happening, I would argue that in life, way back 5,000 years ago, whenever it was that yoga became something that we knew to do, it is the earning of something. It's the doing of something. It is the commitment, the discipline, and the journey from zero to something. Where in this modern world, I think doing the yoga, and like whether that's your phone's in another room, you're just with yourself. And I think with the kids, when I tell Indigo when she's hurt her knee, whatever it might be, and I say, breathe, darling, she's all panicked, and like, by thinking about breathing, now, especially at her age, a few years in where she understands that, like, that's a normal thing for me to say to her, she'll get there in a couple of moments, she will get there, and then switching that mindset, breathe, yeah. So I'm not thinking about the pain and that little bit of blood. I'm not thinking, breathe. And I think it is if you could buy a pill, yeah, great, everyone get a pill, but no one actually gets the lesson. The lesson is if you commit to something, if you offer yourself to something, you get the return. You don't get anything for nothing.
Well, that's the thing. Yoga is officially recognized by this country as a sport. But actually, it's only in like 2018, I might be wrong, but very recently. So basically, if you think way back when I was a little girl, what's your dream? To be professional at yoga, which is not even a thing. You know? Do you know what I mean? This is how we grew and progressed. Now it is. So I'm obviously trained for 5 years. I'm a professional yoga teacher. But yoga itself is a discipline. Not really sport, isn't it?
Yeah, and you say it's no joke. It's not something you can just... You're going to have to work at it, aren't you? You're not just going to go in there and 2 weeks later you're a...
Yeah. And some people do like, I've been to 3 months yoga, I'm good now. I mean, you know this theory, let them. If they think they're good, let them. If they want to come, invite them, let them practice with you. If they think you... whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm never convinced anybody to do anything. But when I get people into class, my prime job to explain, you feel so much better. Another thing is, side effect of yoga, your sleep improving. And as you know, when you sleep, you recover. Your body needs sleep.
Yeah.
I think as well, without being a scientist, bro science heading your way, there's something about when you use your body in any kind of physical activity, and there's something about yoga where there's the ancient epigenetics of the spiritual element to it anyway, isn't there? It's coming through ancient Asia and India and it's
Tibet.
Yeah, and it's got all of that wrapped up in it, and you're sort of in it. There's that's spiritual sounds such a...
It sounds good.
Well, it does, but
What's
it's also
wrong with spiritual?
well,
I'm spiritual.
It gets thrown around a little bit these days, doesn't it? But
Let them.
all of that's wrapped up in it. But how do like I say, I'm not a scientist how to get it there. But there's something about the hormones when you tune. It's like a radio or a frequency. We talk about vibes all the time. It's like you're tuning your body. And if you think about your body, we're given this machine. We're all this new tech. We've got an AI and we've got a chat
Just
GPT.
a sack. This is just a body.
It is, but it's also an amazing vehicle that your psyche and your perception is steered through.
To connect to your higher self.
Right. So
such a good topic here.
So when we tune our bodies, i.e., when you mentioned sleep there, it got me thinking then. I think what we're doing with yoga is, if we're arriving at a point where we're going to dedicate time to do yoga, and alongside that yoga is all wrapped up with breathing and with introspection and the physicalities of it all, the likelihood is you're then going to, because you trigger all of those endorphins and those dopamine sequences, and your body's hormones will then distribute better, your mood regulation,
your glands,
glands, everything. So then you're more conscious about what you're going to put in your body. I'm going to make better choices what I eat. Your sleep gets better. Then this upwards spiral starts to occur where you're just emanating, because you've tuned your body right.
So well said.
You know?
This is brilliant. Yeah, I couldn't say it better.
Oh, thank
and
you.
I'm living, breathing.
That was bro science.
Yeah,
Totally.
that was very articulate.
It was quite, passion comes through. Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, that's something I felt like when I did start that yoga class. Because another thing, and when I mentioned hot pod yoga for the listeners, you were doing
you
but what I would like to say to you from my point of view was, at the time I'd been to a couple of Pilates and yoga classes, right? And I'm big on environment. We're sat now in a gorgeous room, Karma Coast. Shout out to the guys, Dylan and Magda. Right? It's again where I'm at in my life. I'm looking up now at raw steel and oak beams and exposed brickwork and sash wooden windows and an old cast iron radiator and real wood Victorian timber floor. Like this, it's all alive. It's all real. When the environment is lovely. Like, so I went to a yoga class and it was just in like a lovely little country village hall or something. But there's a notice board with a missing dog and who wants to come and carry someone, and the lights flicker in. When I went in the hot pod, what I liked about the hot pod was it was almost like going into a womb. It was dark, and it had like a translucent orange glow at the bottom, and it was like you entered into what was like a vaginal. It was literally like a triangle. You went in, and it was like there was something about being in there that was obscure and different from.
You mean like in a massive piece of plastic?
Right. So this is the flip side where I'm going to go with it. Is like for me, and I think it's right, like perspective, isn't it? So for me at that point, that felt like, oh, this is creating something different from where I'm at in my own mind. This environment for me feels better than that environment there. I've now gone beyond that, and I now understand exactly what you're saying which is that is a commercial corporate enterprise, and but it is about where you are at the time. And I know now, for me to just nip a mile from my house, go down the beach, and sit on the beach and be with myself on the beach and watch my children play and do my stretching, like that is the ultimate for me now.
Oh, that just sounds amazing, yeah. Just do that.
But that little journey was weird, to go from like, doing yoga, a bit like what you were saying, Ray, it's not for me, it's not a man like me, you're a bit younger, I'm in my 30s, I'm still playing football, I'm still drinking a few, and you kind of think, yeah, yoga. A big point like we mentioned how it's sort of changed in the psyche or the public consciousness. Ryan Giggs was a big one. Can you remember Ryan Giggs?
Oh, gosh.
So this was a long time ago. This would have been 20 years ago. Yeah. Right, and Ryan Giggs was defying what was seen to be like the age of a top flight footballer, wasn't he? By still performing at high level. And he was doing yoga, and he was not concealing that.
He made it in Vogue.
Yeah.
Really? For men, not to.
Can you not remember that?
He made it.
I can't remember.
Ryan Giggs was doing yoga, and
he's massive.
Yeah, he was defying all of the data, wasn't he?
He was pretty good at that as well. Because again, from there's the yoga and yoga.
I remember hearing that as a young man then. I'd have been in my 20s then, and I remember hearing that then and thinking, yeah, he's probably onto something. And it was funny because 10, 12, whatever years later, when I start to think about, as you mentioned, my body's stiff, I'm getting tight. And then I use my interests in history where I've read about Egyptians and Sumerians, and you read like, this is part of, you look after your body, you tune your spirit, you tune your body.
We lost it somewhere down the way to become young, hip and cool, AI powered, we lost it. Nothing wrong with AI, I'm all for it. I know one thing it can't do is teach yoga and check alignment.
Or fit kitchens.
It's a point we're just talking about, and it tying in a bit, is yoga has been on a bit of a journey, hasn't it? I think you must have seen a big change in the public perception and who's getting involved. But talking about being young, hip and cool and in vogue, you often get the the Instagram influencer that's went to Bali, and you think, and they've been on a bit of a journey.
Well, that overtakes everything, doesn't it?
This is really, truly, I'm so delighted you invited me. We have the same mindset. No judgment or anything. But there's, as I said just before, there's yoga and yoga.
Yeah.
I teach science of movement, breathing, science of well-being, probably.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And as loud it sounds, but I'm confident teacher. And then, and I spent 5 years of my life do yoga 4 to 6 hours a day.
Wow.
For 6-7 days a week. I had most amazing teachers. And nowadays you can go to Bali and pay whatever, and 3 weeks' time you're back home and open a studio and teach people yoga, and then throw phrases like, which boil my blood, my Ukrainian blood. Phrases like, it's so lovely, it's easy, everybody welcome, there's no need to any discipline or alignment or strictness, just move your body the way you want to. What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's not yoga. If that's what you want, go move your body and enjoy it.
Yeah.
But if you want to get better and learn about yourself and prevent injuries and maintain stamina and physical and mental stamina. Prevent injuries is most important. And then deal with post-injury situation. I've got students with spine injections, post-spine surgery. I've got quite well-known couple of musicians, people who come, they don't want to sort of broadcast it.
Yeah.
Probably lots of men who wouldn't come to the class or maybe don't have time due to have big businesses and, busy lives. Yes, it's just learning about yourself. I think that's bottom line. You just learn about yourself and your body.
Have you seen a big change in your clients then, in terms of the backgrounds that they're from, or in a certain period? Have you noticed that there's more men coming
yes.
from different, maybe
fit, ambitious, sport-wise men who do ridiculously crazy training, running, swimming. Some of them come to private sessions, bring their partners. Some of them confident enough just walk into class. So I've got somebody with hip injury who came back after surgery, 6 weeks after surgery, came back to yoga.
Wow.
So how much do you think they attribute the yoga and what they're doing now, incorporating that into their training, to their success in other parts of the
Not much, not
exercise?
Not enough. But I'm just happy to have them there.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see men understanding. And you've got to have balls as a man to walk into class with like 2-3 men, then to do 3 poses and everybody there.
I was the only fella for a long while in the
and then they couldn't do
podcast.
it. And then it takes courage and confidence and I always say balance is not something you find, it's something you create.
Yeah.
Until you stop thinking about what other people think about me and who is in the class, because nobody cares. Human being is such a selfish creatures. They all care about themselves in the nicest possible way. That's you come to class, you do your thing. If you didn't manage today, so what?
And it's a lot of where people's anxieties are driven from, aren't they? Because we do live in this thing where we think, everybody's looking at me. Everybody's going to be thinking I can't do this.
Does.
And in reality,
None.
nobody really cares, quite often. So are the classes predominantly female? What would be the
20% men. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
That's a decent little.
Yeah, it's more than I thought, actually.
Yeah. Because I was a year getting on for 2 years at that hot pod. I used to go definitely once a week, because I incorporated it, like you mentioned about the high achieving sports. So I was doing other sports, and I incorporated as part of my plan. So for mobility and to just, like we could say, create that harmony. But I was the only guy in there for the first year probably, and then 2 or 3 guys came along, and I met a plumber in there actually.
Did you see a big difference then in, because you were doing high rocks at the time, is it?
Yeah, high rocks and Spartan.
So did you see there was a change in sort of maybe your range of movements or recovery time?
Or when I learned about my hips, I
your hips don't
realised,
lie,
really simple warrior 2 position. I think I was in a warrior 2 position, and you see me squat. So I've always been reasonably athletic, right? And then I was in this position, and I was really always keen, and I always want to do well, and I always want to give my all. And I think coming back to what you said a little moment ago about do a course, set up a studio, do it how you want. I think a lot of that is down to like effort can often be difficult emotionally and physically. It's hard. 10 press ups, yeah, that's easy. Let's do 20. No, them last 10 really hurt. But those last 10 are the ones that are going to give you something, because it's when you reach that point that you're tested when you will grow, isn't it? So I noticed, that a couple of guys coming in, it was huge. But my hips, this lady, she came round, she like took me in, put me in a better posture basically. And she only took my hips in like fractionally, lifted my arm fractionally while I was in the pose. And all of a sudden I went from like 50% effort to like 90%. Like I'm like, Jesus Christ! Like she moved me an inch here and an inch there, and all of a sudden I was like, Whoa, I can't stay like this.
This is what part of what I'm specializing on, hands-on adjustments. It's not. It's to move you in the right place,
Yeah.
so you start to feel where you're meant to be, in body, in your mind, and in life, basically. This is super important because Warrior One depends how you do it. You might injure in your knee.
Yeah.
And you probably have full intention to do it properly.
Well, I definitely know that, again, I don't want to call it off-the-shelf yoga in terms of, as you allude to, people getting a badge and then sort of... But I definitely went in with commitment. I knew one of the instructors. I always used to try and get to her class, Swiss girl, Saskia. She actually did episode 2 of my prior podcast. Lovely girl, really dedicated as well, brilliant. And I used to always try and get in her class because I just felt a similar energy from you, actually, where it's holistic. She used to talk about the emotional, the spiritual, that she knew. She just had it. For me anyway, for my receptor, it was like, yeah, she's holistic here. And I would be in her classes, and from when I started to the end, the transformation in my mobility and my flexibility was undeniable.
And it's only get better if you stick with it.
Yeah.
Is it one of those things where, you know, like you say, you can do it for a few months and you'll see the improvements? But is it one of those things where you're always learning and you can always get better?
Well, you always brush your teeth in the morning, are you?
Well, most days.
Yeah. Well, you can skip one yoga class. Yeah.
And you know what I found interesting? When we were chatting about coming on the pod, you were doing the 3 peaks. Yeah?
Yes.
And I'd message saying, look, I've done the 3 peaks. It was serious effort. Like, good luck with that this weekend. She just texts back saying, I've been in yoga 20 years. Like, this is a breeze.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm thinking, can yoga really have that much benefit on your cardio?
Yeah. The only thing I felt is my hamstrings. And I came down and had the first glass of champagne. And I thought, I need to do something with my hamstrings. They're probably too long. So that kind of connected my body to the whole. I didn't have aches next morning whatsoever.
Wow. So you'd done it there and then, where you think, right. So
I've done it, and we've done it in like 9 hours, which is a lot, but we could do better. But I came down, I thought,
I don't know.
I need to do something with my hamstrings. They're too long.
Right.
So I'm focusing, because it's all about balance.
Yeah.
Right. I'll remember that then, because I'm heading to the lakes after this, and I'm going up, I think, Glencafra tonight, I think.
Are you? Oh, gosh, good luck.
Yeah. And then on a bike tomorrow, and then up another hill tomorrow night. So I will bear that in mind.
So we've talked a lot about yoga, and it's been really beneficial for me. But talking about being a little girl in the Ukraine, your aspirations, you're now in the Northeast. Let's talk about where you're from, how you brought up, how you got to this point, how you got into yoga.
Oh, do you think you was interested in that?
No, we're absolutely interested in that.
I live here for 21 years this July. And pretty much all this time I was training or doing yoga or teaching. I don't know what to say.
So did the yoga start when you sort of moved over here? Was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably first week I moved here.
Oh, really?
Yes. Before I left Odessa, I'm from Odessa, which is bombed by Russians at the moment, which is quite sad.
Yeah, we could talk about that for a long time.
We'd need another podcast.
Yeah, probably wouldn't. I lost it. Like my mind completely.
So when
Ukraine.
I'll allude back before, you'd mentioned when you were growing up, you'd done gymnastics,
yes,
weightlifting, and then you've arrived in the UK.
It was dancing, then gymnastics, and later on I was doing bodybuilding.
So he's always been active.
Yes.
And would you take all of those like to competitions level? Are you sort of?
Not bodybuilding, no.
Right.
Then I played all the sports, you name it, netball, basketball, throwing this thing, you know what it's called? Sprints, running. Anything else there left? So I can see, I've learned about my body and met lots of people. I know how people move, what takes. So I know how to work with people who lift weights. I've done CrossFit here, so it's quite interesting. I think I had a sort of like a midlife crisis in my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
I was training already, but I couldn't find my purpose in life. I know it sounds so cheesy.
No, absolutely.
But I literally was sad because I don't have kids. That's not my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see what is actually point of me. What am I doing here?
Yeah.
And nobody could understand, like, what are you talking about? They're like 31. Like, just couldn't understand, what am I doing here? Like, why, like, have a good life? But,
What's the purpose?
like, who am I helping? I'm literally like the weed in the garden. And then slowly but surely, by training every day, I thought, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Just
Wow.
help people. Help people.
That is a powerful, powerful statement.
Could
because-
never imagine that being out. Honestly, if I listen to myself, I think, she's too cheesy. But that's truth.
No, I don't think it's cheesy at
No,
all,
not at
because
all.
we've arrived at a place where, and I have mentioned this on previous podcasts, for me, one of the most important things in my life is being able to do something that's good for others. And I think it's the best thing for my mental health. It helps me no end. It's like therapeutic, you know, if I can offer something to somebody and benefit their life. And that's where I've sort of ended up. That's why this podcast came around, just to try, you know, and give some people pointers or help them in a certain direction. And that's why I do the work I do. I go around, share what we both do, Sam and I, go around and share our lived experience stories in the effort to try and help somebody if they're struggling to come forward and, you know, talk about it and get the right help. So I think it gives you purpose in life, which is everybody's looking for that.
Probably the purpose, isn't it?
Yeah.
We live by raising others.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah.
People help the people, don't they? That's the thing. And I think it's a really noble thing if you can live your life by that code and say, actually, you know, what am I actually doing that serves the wider community? And that's why we get people on like yourselves who are doing things for this fabulous community that betters people's lives. And I think that's, and you've managed to forge a career out of it, which I think is amazing, you know.
Full time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, amazing.
Absolutely. So yeah, you didn't, the yoga, it wasn't something you just fell into. Was it something that, like, you made a conscious effort when you moved to this new place, this new area? Was it like, yeah, I'm going to get into yoga, or did it just happen organically?
It was, you know, it's nothing coincidental in life. Everything what happened to you, with you, said, being, everything just leads you to some end goal.
I'm a firm believer in that.
Oh, I even have a tattoo fate. So before I left, I had best friend. He came once to the gym when we used to train bodybuilding, like CrossFit.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, I've just been to yoga." I'm like, "What's yoga?" He's like, "Well, it's sort of like gym." He gave me the lamest explanation what yoga is. But when I moved here, first week, I went to the gym in Whitley Bay. And I thought, I'm going to get myself to yoga. I want to know what it is. It sounds like it would be logical progression to what I've been doing with myself in life. And I enjoyed it. And I've done lots of home practice. I went to another gym. With yoga, it was everything. You have to find somebody you connect with. And eventually I found a teacher who I could totally click and connect.
Yeah.
And she's the one, she said, you should read this book, Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which is all this Sanskrit for, first yoga book. Read this, read that, and then you need to go to such and such teacher, and I think you should go for training. She gave me that confidence. It never crossed my mind. It was like week 3.
Right.
It's fabulous.
And we're still friends. And she said, I think you should try and go, and that was it. And then people very kindly, not even knowing me, and I've just
the path opening
just
up
started
for you.
new life, a new country, guided me to the right sort of
It's almost
past
like,
and present.
have you heard of the concept of synchronicity?
Yeah, yes. Oh gosh.
Yeah. So almost like that penny dropping, that introspection you had when you were saying, you know, what is my purpose? And when it clicks and you surrender to it and you just follow that path, and then those doors open and the good of everything and everybody just sort of like mesmerizing, like, how is this happening? How is this? But there's something, I believe anyway, in a woo, whatever it is, it's like when you really do offer yourself truly in your, whatever that is, in your psyche, in your heart, you know, and you're willing to do whatever it takes in a meaningful way.
But also, not only I agree, I also want to add that when you feel like everything goes your way, it's a sign you're actually in the right path.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And that path was so easy. I suddenly was helped by so many people just to get me to that teacher to do this. Somehow.
Yeah, you're thinking this isn't a coincidence. This is meant to be.
I'm doing this, people. I'm doing this. And I used to go to a small group, somebody's house, small group of people doing yoga, even before my training. And I'm still friends with this lady now for 20 years. And I remember she said, when you teach her, I haven't even started training, when you teach her, I'll come to your class. And I just laughed.
Mm-hmm.
So she could see it in you that you were going to...
No, she's in my class every week.
That's amazing.
She said, I told you. Every single week she's in my class.
That's
awesome.
wonderful.
I know her for 20 years. She remembers me like young green, not knowing what's warrior too.
Wow.
Yeah.
So on that, you're now a native of the Northeast, adopted Geordie. How do you feel about this area and the people that of the Northeast? You know, you're obviously alluding to it a bit there about some of the people you've met. How do you feel about the Northeast? Does it feel like home? What about the people? Are they?
Well, it's a second home, adopted home, isn't it? I'm Ukrainian British. I miss where I'm from, but I probably will never go back. I would, however, go after war. After the war, if it's ever going to be after the war. It is a second home. I can't imagine myself living anywhere else, to be honest. Still can't understand Geordie.
You and Sam might have something in common there because he's...
I can't, I couldn't even date this wonderful young man because I couldn't understand what he's talking about.
Well, do you know something I've picked up on, and I love it, and it's a really simple phrase. Everybody uses it here universally, and I love what it means, even though on the surface it's so simple, and that is nay bother. Because there is no bother for somebody. I'm going to do this for you. I'm happy to do this for you. Don't worry about that. It's sorted. Nay bother. I love that. I really love that because it seems superficial on the surface, just whatever almost, but it isn't. It's actually I think a signature of the people here, where whatever it is, it's no bother. Yeah. I love that.
I like the fact when you travel around the country, you come back home, and people are nicer, more chatty and friendly. I love walking my dog in the morning, not too early, but you just pass these random people, and they're like, hiya, or smile, or have a chat. I had a 20-minute chat with this guy I met yesterday with a dog.
Mm-hmm. Never met before?
I've never seen him in my life. He probably... And then you go somewhere else or somewhere different country, and then somebody passed you and not saying hi, like how rude.
Mm-hmm.
How rude.
Yeah, we're blessed here.
You just don't, nobody in the street you pass and you don't say hi because,
it's not the done thing here, is it?
But also, look, we have river, sea, beach, because I grew up in a desert, Black Sea, as close as we're now from Karma Coast. So this is like from Black Sea to North Sea. It's just feels like I'm home, just different.
I see, yeah. That's nice.
Do you know, the same lifestyle?
Yeah.
It's going to lead us into the next question. Obviously, this is NE1's mental health, and we're talking about holistic therapies. But we ask this question to everybody that comes on. And for us, we love the Northeast. Everything you've just said. The people are so warm, friendly. It's a fabulous place. Sea, rivers, mountains, countryside. Great. However, and this is what another reason why we started this podcast, was to try and delve into the following question. So with that all in mind, when you look at statistics for this region, we've got some of the worst statistics for mental health in the whole of the UK, and we've got some of the worst suicide statistics in this region. And it's really trying to dial into why is that? Why? And obviously somebody, coming from another country and learning about the people, and is there something that you could maybe put your finger on? Why is it that we struggle so badly in this part of the UK?
That's sort of superficial, in my personal opinion. What I see in men, superficial. I'm fine. I'm okay. Maybe the way men brought up in this part of the country, where you just being tough, Geordie man, providing for family. Historically, probably fallen from, I don't know, pre-war times. It's that sort of, we all know tough Geordie man. Like when you take care of everybody but forget about yourself.
But it's the perception of what a tough Geordie man is, isn't it? And that's what it's hard to break down, because, we talked about the industry that we work in. We go out and we do talks on construction sites to construction workers, notoriously tough, rough and ready people who have this perception that to work in this industry, I have got to be tough. Therefore, I cannot be susceptible to life's woes, and I certainly cannot say that I'm struggling, because that's not what a tough construction worker does.
Because that mentality was adopted from growing up in this part of the country. In the family, probably dad was quite tough, had hard work, long days. It's all come from family. This is how important, if you have kids, teach them how to breathe. If you don't have kids, you want... Yes, I agree. How do you break this? How you pull just somebody from the street and just ask him, come to yoga, breathe with me?
Yeah, there's a big void between.
You get some odd looks on you. I would imagine, from some people. But and how do we break that down? And that's. But I truly believe it's through
by doing this.
Yes, by 100%. talking and exposing each other to.
I have one person, somebody listen. Oh, that's all rubbish. Or maybe it's not. It's got to be light approach with a bit of a humor, but with a serious issue behind it, to ease people to talk into it. Just start with a little story, offering something, or just have a nice, to break that hardness on the surface, that bravado, that I'm okay.
The bravado, it's a big thing around here, isn't it? We all say it, that bravado. And it sort of leads on to the next question. What if you could give any advice for people listening, the best way that's worked for you for maintain your overall mental health and well-being, what would be your best advice to anyone listening?
Bearing in mind we've just had a good hour of pretty sound advice from you, Tatiana. So just
if you could just summarize
more.
It, maybe.
What do I advise? Stretch.
Yeah.
Stretch,
people.
And if you want to know why, listen to this podcast again. We just talked about it.
And we're going to take some of your advice 100%, and we are going to book in one of your classes.
Yes.
And,
I'm happy to do private sessions with you, check your alignment, and then after that you make decision if you want to come to class.
Cool. Well,
that would be my pleasure.
That. Yeah, we'll document that.
Yeah,
that would be amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's going to be. How else can we convince men to do yoga? This is actually something. You're onto something here.
From a beginner that has been skeptical, but
Hey, you broke that Geordie bravado.
But we'll certainly take you up on that. But I just want to say again, thanks so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. We love what we've talked about, and I think it'll help so many people. But if they were listening and they were intrigued like I am and want to get involved and maybe just start out, how would they...
Not maybe. You're starting.
Yeah, I'm starting. Yeah, there's no maybes about it. How would they find you? I know it's IYOGABODY on Instagram. Is that your main platform?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, and website. And I've recently, in January, moved my classes to, in my opinion, most amazing community, Linskill.
All right.
Oh, I couldn't talk about people in Northeast.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, it's an absolute joy. Not only it's beautiful inside, all the parquet floors and high ceilings, the people is incredible. So that's why I'm teaching my yoga classes. So everybody welcome.
Oh, well, everyone can reach out. And I extend my thanks. It's been, we said off mic a couple of times what a lovely feeling we've created in here. And you've brought that. And hopefully we've reciprocated.
Oh, that was a joy.
It's a beautiful day. It's just, it's moments, little simple moments like this where it's good to be alive, isn't it? And anybody listening, anybody driving now on a way to work or in the gym or wherever it is, we send them love as well, eh?
Yes.
Peace.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Been
you.
a great session.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.